Good morning, RHS. This Sunday marks the 10th anniversary of 9/11. As we get further and further away, our minds tend to forget about all the events that happened, although such a tragic day can never truly be forgotten. So let's take a look back and revisit September 11th, 2001. On Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, 19 Al-Qaeda members hijacked 4 passenger airline jets. The first plane struck the North Tower at 8:46 a.m.
Mr. Balzer was teaching social studies. He came to my room and said, "You'll never believe what happened. A plane hit a building in the World Trade Center." I said, "Really?" Immediately, I thought it was an accident.
A second plane hit the South Tower at 9:03 a.m. America now knew that this was no accident.
Anyway, he comes back a few minutes later and says some other plane hit the other tower. So we knew right away it wasn't an accident, and so I turned to my class. I said, and they were talking at the time, and I said, "Be quiet, America's under attack."
Not just the World Trade Center was under attack. The third plane, Flight 77, crashed into the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia at 9:37 a.m. This was the first successful attack on the nation's capital since the War of 1812. The fourth plane was believed to be headed towards the Capitol building, but the passengers took control over the plane and it crashed in a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
When it happened, we were in class. I was teaching drama class, and we heard about it. I don't remember who told us, but we turned on the TV and started watching the news, and at first we really had no idea what was going on, and I don't think anyone really understood the totality of the event until later on in the day as events became more clear. But
there is the scene. This is tape now from WABC here in New York. Their crew shot this picture.
The South Tower collapsed at 9:59 a.m. and the North Tower collapsed at 10:28, 102 minutes after the first plane hit the North Tower.
And there, as you can see, perhaps the second tower, the front tower, the top portion of which is collapsing. Good Lord. There are no words.
I remember that day very clearly, with all the classes gathering together, and it was a strange time, and obviously something that we had been discussing in our international affairs class. From the previous year, President Clinton had given a speech in, I believe, 1999, and we had the clipping up on the wall of Osama bin Laden and a speech that President Clinton had given. That we had discussed in foreign policy class. So it was one of those things where we kind of understood what was going on, but we also didn't really know anything at the time, and we're kind of piecing together a lot of the stuff. I look back on that, 10 years later, I think, man, we gave a lot of wrong information at the time because we really didn't know what was going on. We were processing as best we could.
The final death toll was almost 3,000. The 3,000 included 60 police officers, 343 firefighters, 19 hijackers, 8 private emergency technicians, and 184 people in the Pentagon. Over 70 nations lost citizens that day. However, the majority of the lives lost on that day were civilians. An overwhelming 2,753 victims died on September 11th, 2001. The aftermath went on, and it hit everyone. Schools were released early, and the economy took a giant plunge.
The financial aftermath of September 11th was really serious for our nation. When people become scared and think that they're not safe, they want their money close to them. So that means they're going to sell their stocks. That led to our stock market crashing. Pretty significant crash, not nearly as significant as the Depression, but for our modern times, very serious financially.
It would be an event that sparked several new security laws and the Patriot Act.
This new law that I signed today will allow surveillance of all communications used by terrorists, including emails, the internet, and cell phones.
September 11th and the Patriot Act also caused an increase in hate crimes towards American Muslims.
There was an incident where somebody threw an egg through the window of the construction trailer that was here, and also graffitied the entire side of the white construction trailer in front of the Gurdwara.
One of the biggest ones people in the United States have misconception about is how related the religions are. Judaism, Christianity, and Muslim all come from the same religion. They all come from Abraham.
However, even with the higher chance of being mistaken for terrorists, American Muslims gave huge help to the victims and survivors of 9/11.
Everyday citizens of all nationalities that came together, united as Americans when this awful tragedy happened.
As tragic as September 11th was, there was perhaps some good that came out of the tragic event.
The one positive I can think of it is just the way everybody in the United States came together and flags were flying high, and you looked at the ball games and the flags that came out, and it'd be great if we could get back to that without a tragedy, and that we as Americans acted that way every day.
The feeling in New York City was unbelievable, that every time a fire truck or a policeman or anyone who had helped, he said people just stood in the streets and applauded them, showing their gratitude and thankfulness.
For the future generations to come, our children and their children, will ask us what were we doing on September 11th. And it'll be just another day for them to remember on the calendar. But for those that lived it, it'll be a day that we truly never forget.